Yeah.
So we're waiting for her to get here.
Those are-
Up there and back
Those
there.
are not comfortable chairs.
David won't be here. You could sit there.
Yeah. Right hand of God. Oh, I suppose we're recording.
Okay,
Dave, can you hear me? Nope, somebody's muted. Dave, you're muted.
David is muted, yeah, he's got the little mute button there.
Some people are here.
I tried, it looked like I went to unmute, but now it did, I think. You hear me now?
Kimberly had to run home real quick, so we're running about 10 minutes late.
Sure, fine.
Okay.
There you go, now he'll hear you.
Did you get my email?
Who?
Did you get my email, David?
Yes, I did.
Okay, those are the documents that we'll go through.
Yeah, I was going through the
What was that?
42 page one and the other one, but this is much easier.
Did you get a hold of her?
Sorry?
Did you get a hold of Cindy?
I haven't heard back. Yeah, she tried this caller, I texted.
Andy won't be here because he's down in Fargo, so. He knows he's not getting that extra deputy, so. So he'll get that, he'll get the promotion from within, but that's it. Sorry.
Oh, that's not included in what we did, but we'll add to it.
Okay,
We'll have to add if that's decided on.
assistant sergeant out during the day, and both of them are tied up doing administrative stuff inside, so. We got Smokey and the Bandit song for Kimberly.
Probably under arrest from our
Westbound or down, loaded up in trucking. Let us know when you turn around. We'll sing another verse.
She'll probably have to zoom in from the back on one of these deputies squads.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
as they're taking her to jail.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure she'll get a passcode.
Is she gonna come back here or is she just gonna do Zoom or what is she gonna do?
Yeah, she's just gonna drop the seat off with her.
And come back.
Come back, yeah. Yep. So none of the race boys were at our construction meeting the other day. But, I did talk to Nick at the county shop about taking a little section out of that fence on the east end. It's a slider gate. It would only be used, I guess, for the John Sykes Memorial. That's it. Yeah. Because all the late lines in the main pit, and then there were modifieds in the county shop.
Yeah, it would only be natural contractors crews, it wouldn't even be public.
No public. But the other thing is, the outlaws, they didn't utilize that county shop at all during that. Well, there's 5 cars in there.
They went.
But they get more
Get some mulligan, you can still adjourn the meeting.
Do you want to unmute us?
We're good.
All right. Call the Administrative Services meeting to order. Today is July 25th, 2023. We're going to talk about the budget today.
Mr. Chairman, I have provided you all copies of what I will discuss today, and I've sent David an email, so he does have all the documents as well. I have labeled them. First document in the upper right-hand corner says 1, so that's where we're going to start, and that's the levy calculation. We're going to go through everything that's on here and what's included in here. In the bottom right-hand corner, it shows 6.74 mils increase over prior year. So that is the highest increase we've had, at least since 2020 or 2014. So we will move on to the second document. It's 3 pages long. Final budget may not increase from the preliminary. So once you approve the preliminary on August 1st, you cannot go up from there. It has to only, it can go down, but it can't go up. Another good news, or some more good news, is the estimated mill went up because I have the centrally assessed values in there. The state provided those to me July 11th. They went up 15%. So overall, we're at 7.78%. Increase over last year, $27,000. If you take that 27,000 times the 45.04 mils that we had last year, that's extra $1.2 million or 3.25 mils. So our 6.74 would be even greater had we not had the valuation increase. The general fund revenue increased $822,000 over last year. And I'll show you some of the areas where we increased. Most of it was from interest. The general fund cash, we're using $3 million or almost $3.1 million. And last year we had used 3.8. So we're using $750,000 less than we did last year. Included in the 2024 primary budget. So these are the things that you told me to put in here. So this, I put them all in. So there's an additional human resources position, grade 11 for 94,000, and that's 0.33. If you took that out, we'd be 0.33 mils less than that 6.74 mil increase. The additional information technology, grade 11, again, $94,000. They also want to reclassify an IT position from a grade 11 to a grade 12. That's $6,700, 0.02 mils, if you didn't include that. We have included 2 additional youth assessment positions, grade 8s. She actually requested 3, if you recall, and she said she'd settle for 2 at this moment, and she would need a 3rd once they're open. But if you, that 2 positions cost $174,000 or 0.61 mils. The additional buildings and grounds position in grade 6 that you included in 2023 was not budgeted. So now we have that in our 2024 budget, and that's 0.29 mils. Salaries, all full-time employees and elected officials, excluding the sheriff's deputies, will be increased by 5% on October 2023, as recommended by the HR department. The approximate cost for 2024, now this excludes the highway. Why do I say that? Is because their levy will not change. That's why I don't have their cost in here. It's included in their highway distribution funds, salaries are. So it's $585 or almost $586,000 or 2.06 mil increase. There were 39 positions that will be regraded effective January 1, 2024. The approximate cost is about $210,000 or 0.74 mils. There are 112 positions identified as out of market and will receive 7% increase January 1, 2024. That's $756,000 or 2.66 mils. The sheriff's deputy's salary scale was approved effective July 1, 2023. The cost of that is $275,000 or 0.97 mils. Step increases on seniority dates have been included for all qualified employees. Sheriff's deputies are included, regraded or excluded because their dates are changing to January 1, 2024. The cost of that is $191,000 or 0.67 mils. Retirement, oh, I guess I must not have printed off. Oh, no, I did talk about that, but retirement, there's also 1% that's already included for the ND PERS defined benefit is increasing from 13.26 to 14.26 for 2024. So that's included. But then we had a request from the sheriff that all sworn personnel will be transitioned from the ND PERS defined benefit plan to the ND PERS public safety plan. The additional cost is 1.78% of their salary, or $122,000. So it would include correctional center officers and peace officers. So the sheriff's department, the youth assessment center, and the correctional center officers. So it's 122,000.43 mils. There is $1 million included for capital improvements, and we've had over $1 million in requests for the funds for 2024 without considering the parking lot. CIC requested $203,985, and that's included, and it's an increase of $98,895 over last year, 0.34 mil. The detox center was increased by $35,000 to $130,000, and that would cost 0.12 mils. All other contracted services were included at last year's level that are listed there. Things that were not included. The sheriff requested to reclass a deputy position to a sergeant position, which I don't have a cost on because I don't know who they were even talking about.
Well, he doesn't know yet because he opens it up to people that are qualified and then interviews and
So I don't have that in here because I just, it's not included in the 6.74 mil levies.
I did tell him that additional deputy, that he was going to get up to 35 or something, he won't get that one.
So that's my next point for that.
Okay.
That is also not included in this budget is the sheriff's request to maintain the position that was hired to fill the deployment vacancy.
Yeah. Well,
If you did include that in there, you would need another 0.35 mils to do so.
okay.
It's $101,000. There's also a request from Divert and Day Report programs from YouthWorks that's not included, and that was $14,000. And there was a $12,000 request from Healthy Families, Uspire, ND Healthy Families. And that's not included. And then there were things that were not discussed. And the Grand Berks County Employees Association requested 2 extra personal days and increasing wellness hours from 4 to 8 hours. And then HR suggested making Juneteenth a paid holiday in place of additional personal days. And then the Grand Berks Humane Society, which we recently received their budget, asked for another $6,000. So we've got $20,000 in there. They want $26,000, which is not in there. So if you want to do that, it will just cost more. Page 3. If you look at the estimated levy for 2024, excluding state and garrison, and what was levied in 2023, you have a $4.7 million increase or 16.77%. If you look look at what the levy will be just for the general fund, it's $3.1 million greater than it was last year. And it's about 20% greater. And then I have listed there all the other funds. Capital and construction is our big one. That's a 27.58% increase over last year. We're now doing an additional levy on the correctional center bonds to offset some of the costs. So it will cost us more at the beginning, but we're going to save the taxpayers about $6 million. And then, so all other funds are 12.9%, but the big one is the capital construction. The next page, page 4, shows you the general fund budget. And you can see the changes from each department. Most of the changes came from salaries. There were very few other things that were included in the budget. I think other than salaries, it ended up being like $64,000, other than salaries and additional people. So we won't go through that line by line, but it's there for you to review. And like I said, you don't have to approve the budget today. And if you want to question anything, you can also do that August 1st. So, and then I have the list of revenue at the bottom for the general fund. And interest income is a big one. We had $80,000 in the 2023 budget. When we budgeted for that, we were getting 0.5%. In 2022 when we budgeted for 2023. Now we're at 3.65%. So it's a big increase. There is talk that maybe in 2024 interest rates will go down again. We don't know. So we have to budget and we have to be conservative when we do so. So shelter care, $380,000 that we hadn't had before. But we need at least 2 people, 3 people probably eventually. So that will lead into some of that revenue that we're going to get. But I think that is a conservative figure too. So you can see our prisoner board payments, that's the last item listed there, is going down 200,000. They are over, can't handle additional payments, customers. Page 5 shows you the breakdown in the other fund expenses. First one, county road and bridge. They're allowed 10 mils by law, and he wants to keep it at 10 mils. And he could increase it beyond that, he would. So that went up just because the value of the mill went up. Highway fund is not levied for. And then the other things, a lot of them are the value of the mill increase, and they increase. The Historical Society, the Seniors Citizen Center, State Tax Garrison, library, the ambulance, the airport. The library has to levy so much, and if they decrease their mills, they will not be eligible for state aid. So they want to make sure they maintain their levy. The emergency fund, we've got $50,000 increase over last year. Our current balance is $1.2 million in that emergency fund. We're allowed to have a balance of up to what 5 mils would generate, and that would be $1.8 million. So we want to make sure that we keep increasing that, and we don't let it dip down too far, because you never know when you're going to need it. So then you see the big one, the capital construction, almost $2 million greater than it was last year. And that's for like the correctional center bond and the dome repair loan. Next page, page 6. This shows you a breakdown of the revenue for other funds. Getting 6.47% more than we did last year. And you can see the breakdown there. Page 7. Shows you what a taxpayer will pay in additional county taxes if we approve, or if you approve, the levy that's on the first page, that 6.474, would show an increase in county taxes on a residential property, assuming they went up 5%, an average amount on their valuation on a $230,000 property, would be about $120, just the county portion. And then
That's not based on value of their property though, right?
it's based on the value of the property.
Is it?
Mhm.
So that, how, okay, so.
So this says in last year's taxes, the value of their property was $230,000. That's an average value of a home in Grand Forks County.
Okay,
And let's say the next year, the 2023 taxes that will go at the end of this year, payable in 2024, is 5% greater, an average increase. So then their value is $241,500. Their taxable value would be $10,868, and if we levy 96.9 mils for the county, that would be $1,053 in taxes on the county portion only, not your whole tax bill.
no,
So we know that the school's going up because they
$100
approved.
on, what's for every 100,000?
So that would also be in someone's tax bill. So just the county portion would go up $120, and it would be a 12.85% increase over the prior year. An egg, if you had agricultural value of 230, you would see 122 because you pay a little bit higher on egg or commercial. And then the last page that I talked about earlier is a 6.74 mil increase for 2024. You can see what they were in the prior years I have listed there. 2023, we had 3.18. We included the bond for the correctional center at that time. In 2022 is minus 0.65. And going back to 2018, you see a negative 24.14, and that's when the state took over for social services, and that's why most of it. I mean, I think there was still, I think it was about 20,000 or 20 mils, I mean, or 19 something decreased just because of the social services. So I also wanted to mention that if you go back to their very first page in the general fund, we're limited to 60 mils. This budget was usually at 50.13 mils, but we're using that almost $3.1 million in cash. And if we didn't have that cash, we'd still be under the 60 mils, but we'd be close. We'd be about 59 mils. So we wouldn't have much room left.
So at 6.74, we would be using 50,
So
1.13
So,
of the
so
60.
just at the top portion here is the general fund.
Yeah.
And it says limit 60. Do you see that on the side there?
Yep.
And we're at 50.13 with the general fund.
Okay.
And like I said, we're using $3.1 million in cash. And if we didn't have that, that number would instead be about 59 mils. So we'd still be under, but not much. And that's the legal limit. So anyway, this is informational. This is what you all included in here. This is what I'll present on August 1st. And either you can tell me now, take something out, change something. Or we leave it this way, I present it, and you go from there. But like I said, once you approve that preliminary budget, you cannot increase.
Thank you. Any questions?
Couple. Start with page 5 here. Third item on the list. Page 5.
Historical Society.
Yes.
Yep.
In my view, let's just chop that sucker right out of there.
Well, it was approved by board motion to fund them.
I make a motion to unfund it. I know it's an administrative services meeting, but
No, well, I think you can make a motion.
It's not something we're required to do, is it, to get them money?
No, but it was done by board action.
Yeah.
And I don't have that with me when that happened, what year it was, but
you know, in my
a
short
long time ago.
time on the board, it's done nothing but cost this county about $7 million on that courthouse dome. Where we could have just put a regular roof on it, and so funding them further to me is not an objective of mine. If I don't know if I've got support on that or not, but
I don't know, if you should make a motion here.
So, well, all the board members are here,
But it's not.
Yeah,
Not
maybe
formal.
it's not, yeah.
so it would have to be done
So it could be done on August 1st.
August 1st. So just make a note of that.
noted. Duly noted.
Duly noted, yeah.
I mean, what's the upside of keeping it?
I don't know if you want to hear from them.
No,
They probably can tell you, but
they don't want to hear from me either, so
I mean,
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Dave, I think at Administrative Services Committee meetings, I suppose we can make motions on what we would like to present to the board in the next meeting, but that's all we can do. So I don't think we can actually take items out of here. So I think what you're saying is make a note of it is probably the right way to do it.
okay. Should we just wait till a regular meeting on August 1st?
yeah, that's cool. I just wanted to keep it on the record.
Okay, you got another point?
I do. So as I was combing through the budget prior to this meeting, which I thought was yesterday, so I was 24 hours early to it. I was looking at the jail. It's quite a large line item. So I'd probably bring you to page 3 of the revenue report and simultaneously page 4 of the expense report. On the expense side, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th item down on the report. The revenue report is 4 from 5. If that helps. So I'm seeing a 2024 department request expenditures of 8.08 million roughly. And a revenue in the same year, the 2024 request on the other side of 1.28 million, which translates to me with my Red River High School, University of North Dakota math as a $6.9 million annual expenditure prior to the expansion and whatever that requires for staffing. And that's not even including our bond payment, which I'm assuming is going to be in that between $2 and $3 million range. That is like 25 to 30% of our budget as a whole. My question, and maybe a task or just a request of Mr. Burkholder, who's in the room here today, would be, what can we do to reel that in some? Because the business model jail that we were presented with, it might offset some of these charges to some, or expenses to some degree, but it's pretty high. And so I'd like to see maybe if there's any adjustments that can be made. I'm no expert on running jails, but that's expensive in our budget.
And I think Mr. Burkholder can answer some of those questions, but he did earlier when he talked about why the jail is set up the way it is. Mr. Burkholder, do you want to address that about people that commit crimes together can't be together and all this other? So you don't have as many federal prisoners coming in because of all the separation that you've got to have, so.
Members of the commission, first and foremost, jails aren't made to make money. If they were, they wouldn't be public entities, they'd all be private. The closest private one I'm aware of is Appleton, Minnesota, which failed many years ago, and now it's a federal facility. It costs money to run a facility. There's not a single inmate in there that we invite to the facility or we bring to the facility. Everyone that's in that building is a result of law enforcement. So if we want to make an effect on the number of Grand Forks people, and I don't like saying this, but if we want to make an effect on the number that come to our facility, one, we don't arrest them, or two, we make the laws such that they don't get arrested. Those are easy ways of which we can minimize the number of people coming in. Right now, projections through June of this year puts Grand Forks County alone at over 60,000 bed days, of a total of 70,000 of all people. When we were selling beds, and yeah,
70,000 part, what was that piece?
70,000 is what the total will be. So 6 out of every 7 inmates we hold there, we don't have a choice. They're our people. The other ones we're attempting to make some money. So the 1.28 million and so forth, that is from them. But that number keeps dwindling because we don't have the bed space. We are approaching right now we're back up to almost 195, 196 average daily population. We were at 214 prior to COVID. We saw the relief from COVID, got down to about 170 or thereabouts. And we've watched it rebound and it continues to go up. And what's continuing, and the bad thing about it is the continual increase are typically our Grand Forks County inmates. Now, at 195, our functional capacity is 180, so we're already over that capacity. Functional capacity meaning that we have the ability to separate people as we need to. We don't have a choice on that in many of the people. We're dealing with fights every week. We have to remove those people. They can't be housed together anymore, so we'll end up with beds here or there available. But you can never use every bed that you have. That's a function of business. As to the cost, I did a quick look just to see what Cass County is. Their budget's right near 20 million. That's sheriff and correction center. Lion's share of that, of course, is going to be correction center. We are open 24/7, 365. I am not overstaffed. I have come to you and asked to have staff on call because I'm short staffed. And I've had to utilize that many times. In operating a correctional facility, staffing is the key component. Look at, Ms. Nelson, do you have my line item for staff of that budget? I don't know what it is. It's a very large percentage, though, I'm sure.
$4.2 million.
4.2, is that just salaries or is that benefits and everything else?
That's just salary.
Yeah, so you're looking at probably 6 million in salaries to have staff there. If you're looking to cut expenses, that would ultimately be cutting staff because it's a no frills facility. There is nothing that we are providing that we are not really required to by law and or standards. I would love to cut costs. I'd love to earn more income, but I can't cut my staff. And I can't bring in more people right now because they don't have beds. Yes,
What are the additional staffing needs once the additional 60 beds are completed?
the additional staffing beds is gonna be probably about 3 FTE 24/7.
How about custodial things of that nature?
It's my hope that we won't have to add to more custodial. Right now, the inmates are responsible for cleaning their areas. What we're looking to build is a more minimum secure area. Therefore, by it being a little bit nicer and so forth, I'm hoping that we have less issues there. That won't put a burden on the maintenance staff as much then. Time will tell if we're pushing 280, 320 inmates in 5 years, and we're likely gonna need more maintenance staff, as more things will be happening.
I'm just looking at just strict numbers, not so much, nobody sitting around this table runs jails, you do, right? So that's what you know, we don't. But just strictly from a number standpoint, I'm taking it from your remarks that we're at the bare bones, in your opinion.
Commissioner Rusted, I've looked at this things inside out, upside down as to what can be cut. I don't want to put something in front of you that I don't believe I can make. Look at the medical line item and so forth, and that's over $250,000. That can get blown away by just a couple incidents. We do have insurance. We pay for insurance on inmates, but we still have deductibles and everything that we're always responsible for. And everything that you see on my expenses already from prior years are things that aren't covered by insurance. So we've run close to $250,000 numerous times. I know it's going to happen. Our meals, I got almost $500,000 in food service. We're serving you got 60,000 bed days at 3 meals a day. That's 180,000 meals. I don't know what the exact number is. I'd have to do my calculations, but it's a lot. And we're getting them out of the kitchen for just over $2 a meal. We have a contractor that does that. We can't do it ourselves at that price because we've sourced it out because they can do it much cheaper.
Well, that seems like a really reasonable price. You understand how it's a jaw-dropping number walking out the door, especially after we've talked about the business model of the jail and how it brings money to the county. And then once I kind of figure out how to connect some dots on the two sides of this budget, how it is eye-opening, and so that was just kind of my questions. I don't know that we necessarily are gonna solve the world's problems today, but I'm glad that you came today and were willing to answer that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if there's anything more, I'll gladly. The only other thing I would say is once this expansion is done, it would be my hope that we can get back into the business model. I've already talked with, say, the U.S. Marshals, for example. They're willing to bring me more inmates. I've talked to immigration. They're willing to bring me more inmates. I have a revenue source that I can tap once I have the space.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
So if Marshall brings an inmate to Grand Forks County and they finish out their sentence here instead of in Leavenworth or wherever, where do they go afterwards once they're released, when they're done?
Excellent question. The vast majority of the Marshall people we hold are pretty much local people. Within 200 miles of Grand Forks, the vast majority of them.
What if one wasn't? What if we had a guy from Alabama that did something heinous that we had and they were released? I mean, do the marshals come and get them and bring them back home? Or what is that process like?
Many times what I've seen is they'll buy a bus ticket back home.
Okay.
And get the opportunity to go home that way.
And they're not going to the Mission or to the underneath the river bridge or anything like that.
Not our U.S. Marshal ones. Many of them are local, semi-local individuals that have committed a federal crime.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else, Commissioner Rusted?
Taking up enough
When-
time.
One thing I would like to bring up, the sheriff's office. Andy had asked for a sergeant's position. He wants to free up, he's got a couple sergeants on days and 2 on nights. But he wants to free up one of those 2 deputies during the day so they can be out in the field doing some things. So this new sergeant then would be scheduling things and doing things that are more administrative instead of being out in the field. I would like to see that added into his budget. The deputy that's been working right now for Kasmerchik, that is in the National Guard, when Kasmerchik gets back, that deputy who filled the position will continue on in the department. Andy had already hired somebody to backfill, but he told the guy no. He says, I can't hire you right now. So that way he's up at his 34 staff. And that's what he had before. And then that promotion will come from within those 34.
Yeah, I'm totally defer to you on how sheriff's department needs to run.
Yeah,
But that's what you believe it ought to be.
Yeah.
That's what we
Yeah.
should do.
I think he was hoping he would get that, be able to keep that extra deputy plus hire, but not at this time, I said, so.
I've got a question on that, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Is what we're saying that there was a request to actually add an additional position so that we could keep the guy who's coming back, but also keep the person who was offered a job. As it has turned out, will it just be the guy coming back from deployment who will fill that same spot, and then the 1 extra deputy we approved, but not the last one who was ostensibly hired? Is that right?
yeah, that's correct. He was told that he would not be able to hire him at this time.
Okay, just wanted to understand it. So we won't do anything to the preliminary budget, except approve the fact that he can maintain that position that was, or no, we're not adding that position that was hired to fill the deployment vacancy.
When Kasmerchik gets back, in fact, he might even be back now, Andy was at 34, and he will continue to be at 34 when this is all said and done, because of the people that have left or retired or whatever. So,
But the guy who was filling in does get to stay in one of those other slots. Is that right?
correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm talking right, aren't I, Roberta?
Yeah, I didn't know that he rescinded the offer.
Yeah.
So,
Any
Are we
other-
gonna- are we going to talk about the employees' non-monetary items that are on page 2, part of page 2?
Last
The
item.
personal days, wellness, hours, Juneteenth, and so on. They're not in the budget at this point, right?
No. But actually, it wouldn't cost, I would imagine we have to increase holiday pay for that, if you decided to approve Juneteenth, so that would have to be added cost. I don't know what the cost would be for that.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but Juneteenth was going to be allowed. We had talked about providing that day off if the state went that way in a motion. And
That goes back, Mr. Chair, when the proclamation came out from the federal level.
Yep.
And so it was the commission's motion to recognize it, but not be paid holiday unless the state goes in that direction.
Yeah.
last discussed in admin services, it looks like the state is going that direction.
They are going that
That's what
way.
it looks like. I know the university, which is on state, I found out that my wife works at the university, they will have it paid
Okay.
next year.
So would we have to add to our resolution? Be part of it? No. If the state goes, we go, right? Okay, all right. Do you hear that, Dave? The state's going.
Yeah. Yeah,
Juneteenth.
I had heard somewhere that I thought they were doing that, but if that's the way we made the motion earlier, and I think that makes sense. But the 2 extra personal days and increasing wellness hours, is that something that's even part of the budget? Or do we simply do it by resolution if we do want to do it at some point?
And maybe what you could do, if you want to go this way, we would put the cost in the 2024 budget, and you can later decide if you need to make a motion, if you want to do it or not. And if you do, then we've got it already budgeted for.
But what, are you just talking about holiday pay for some reason? Or what?
Yes, holiday pay.
Who, if it's a day where
It would be
we're
correct.
not gonna have the whole county office building working that day and have a gigantic holiday pay, are we?
I think Mr.
Would be
Burke
working that
wants 8 days or 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah, it would just be those, 24/7 departments that would have to pay up the holiday pay.
Okay,
They
so
extend
the
them.
correctional centers, the deputies and people who, well, okay, I understand it. I'm not sure how that fits in with holiday pay, but it's okay. We'll talk about that.
Yes,
Just for clarification, I think we'd want to look back on the exact language of that motion. I'm not sure it's automatic that it kicks in on the county level if the state, I know that was part of the discussion, but we'd want to be careful to look at the language to see if maybe if we need to make a new motion or if it is automatic.
that's on Juneteenth.
Mhm.
Okay,
Which we can, Debbie and I can take a look at.
research, okay.
So the question would be, do you want us to add it for August 1st approval of preliminary budget or not?
What's the wishes of the board?
I'm a no.
How about you, Dave? What do you think?
Well, I think that was our original, whether it made it into the motion or not, I think that's what we were talking about. And had the state been on board already on that, we would have done that. And it's one of those things that when we talk about our employees being such a valuable resource, which is actually without them we're nothing. This seems to me to be one of those things that we can do rather inexpensively and it's kind of a morale booster. So I guess I'd be in favor of doing it. This budget's awfully tight though.
So do we talk about this on, what, August?
We're gonna include it, and then we're gonna talk about it August 1st, and you're gonna decide on August 1st if
Okay.
you want it in or out.
Okay,
Yeah, we can decide it on August 1st.
is that good? All right,
And then, so that's in place of those 2 extra personal days, you think? And then increasing the wellness hours from 4 to 8, and that doesn't count,
What even is that? I don't even know what that means.
Employees can,
participate in various activities and earn extra time off.
yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Would that be a budget item because they could sell it when they leave or the end of each year?
No, it isn't a budget item at all.
Okay, good.
We can talk about that too on August 1st, right?
Yeah,
Alright.
you could. And then the Humane Society's additional $6,000. We didn't have their budget and we put in their request from last year and then we got their request later,
I don't
much later.
think we need to give them an extra $6,000 right now.
Okay.
I would deny that.
And then everything else that I have got in here, you can either tell me now or tell me August 1st if you want it out. But like I said, once you approve the budget August 1st, you can't go higher.
We can decrease.
You can.
Just a off the cuff question on that. We have sometimes made a budget amendment motion sometime during the year.
Right,
That-
that's not levied for. So it's
That's
a
what?
budget amendment. They have to have cash to pay for it.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, it's pretty much set in stone, but it's sometimes with an emergency, we've been able to take care of it, I guess.
Yes, we have been fortunate enough to have cash on hand to do so.
Okay, that's right.
Do we want time to digest all this and then talk about it on August 1st? Rather than sit here and,
Probably.
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah,
How about you, Dave? We'll just take time to digest this and deal with it on August 1st.
Yeah, Debbie, thank you for explaining it better than I could make sense of it myself, that's for sure. We'll be better, all of us will probably be better prepared on August 1st, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
I mirror his sentiment, Debbie. Appreciate the way you
Yeah.
put into this.
It's a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, I'm glad we had the time to go through it and you can decide what you want
Sure.
and have some time to
And,
think.
and there's so much material here. This is probably the toughest budgets I think I've seen. Even before I was a commissioner.
Same here.
Okay, is that pretty much it then for
Yes,
today?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Let's make a motion to adjourn. please.
Second.
So moved. Seconded by Commissioner Rusted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign, motion carried. All right, we're adjourned.
thank you.